Ben from Snowy's here, folks. Today taking you for a walkthrough of this Dometic Santorini FTK 4x8 TC inflatable tent. Durability of canvas. It's got that inflatable frame which is really forgiving, super easy to pack up and really easy to pack down. Before we dive into this product, there is loads more content like this on our YouTube channel, so make sure you like and subscribe and you'll get notified of all of our latest content. Now let's jump in. So the Santorini tent comes in this bag here and it comes included with a pump. So before we go any further, I want to make mention of that because this is set up with a pump. It's inflatable poles, really easy to set up. The inflatable poles are really forgiving in this tent here. So if you're using it in coastal environments or places where there's a lot of wind, these poles tend to flex, bend and pop back into place. They're very different than your average steel or alloy pole tent. So all pumped up with this pump here, really easy to do. Check out our setup and pack down video on how to do that. Now it comes in this bag here which measures, well when it's packed up it measures about 80 centimeters by about 45 centimeters in diameter, depending on how tightly you roll it up, and it weighs about 31 kilos with a pump and everything included, about 28 kilos just for the tent. This is a really useful bag. It's oversized, it zips right open flat onto the ground when you go to pack your tent away in it, so nice oversized bag. It is pretty chunky. I guess you could put it on a roof rack, but the benefit of the inflatable tents is that it's a shorter length, so you can fit it inside your average station wagon or even a sedan, I suppose. So not small, but it is a touring tent. It's made with durable fabrics and can be much easier to handle than some of the longer tents out there that are made for touring. Now the total footprint of the tent, including the awning in the front here, is about 6.2 meters thereabouts and about 2.9 meters in width. You can fit 4 to 8 people inside. We'll show you the inside shortly. But we'll do the outside first, starting with the fabrics. Now this is a 210 GSM, what they call a technical cotton, or in a nutshell, it's a polycotton canvas. It's not seam sealed and it doesn't have a PU coating on it. So going back to that traditional style canvas whereby you season it, these seams kind of swell up, creates a waterproof barrier and it keeps you dry, and you get all the benefits of breathability of cotton here. So all the condensation and stuff that you would get in a lot of synthetic tents largely goes away with this material here. And you also get the UV resistance that you get out of a canvas versus a synthetic material, and you get the durability of canvas in this tent here, all in either what can be used as either a family or a touring tent. Now there's 4 hoop style poles on this tent and they've each got their own inflation ports. So there's one here, there's another one here, and one on each of the hoops at the back. So the tent's not freestanding. There's 4 hoops and they're all held into place by all these guy ropes that are all around the tent. Now these work really well. They're a strap, like all webbing rather than a rope. They're attached to the tent at the top here via reinforced sort of gussets here or triangles into the tent. Run right down to where the peg point is. So the peg goes through the webbing here, and then that loops back again to the tent at the base here, where this is then attached to this skirt around the bottom here, which gives weather protection between the floor and the tent. And these are all adjusted by these tri-glide buckles, and even on the guy rope at the top here, there is a tri-glide buckle here that is used to adjust it. So really easy adjustments, and all the guy ropes around the tent feature this adjustment here. So super easy to adjust and adds heaps of stability to the tent. Moving on down the side of the tent here, there's a large window here. This has got an internally adjustable privacy screen. We can see it's just unzipped on the corner here. So you can open and close that from the inside, from the top down. And below that is a large vent. So this is low level vent here. There's mesh here. You've got 4 little kickstands here to hold that out, so you get low level ventilation through the tent. That also features at the rear section of the tent here. So we've got another gusset here. Now these can be Velcroed closed or set open, so you get ventilation through the tent. Tons of ventilation in this tent here, and that's really important for keeping the inside of the tent free of condensation. As we move around to the rear, I'll just make mention that the 4 corners are all orange, they have orange webbing straps on it, so it's really easy to identify what the corner points are when you're setting this up. And then at the rear, you've got this large window that runs right across the back of the tent here. And this can be set up in 3 ways. Firstly, zipped closed like this is at the moment. There's Velcro tabs at the bottom here to hold that down, and then zips that run down the side here. You can just remove these guy ropes if you don't want to use them at all. Pack them somewhere else or leave them attached, easily removed. Second way to set it up is with a gusseted window. This is a gusset here. You can peg this out using the guy rope, allows this ventilation so that you get airflow through the rear window here and provides weather protection if it is still rainy. Alternatively, if the weather's awesome, just unzip this all the way, remove the guy rope if you like, roll it right up to the top here, secure it there, and you've got this massive window right across the back here for ventilation inside the tent. Back down the other side of the tent, same thing. You've got ventilation on the bottom of this section, internally adjustable window here, gusset at the bottom of that as well for ventilation, and then back around to the awning at the front. But before I go any too further, I just want to stress how good air poles are nowadays. Now, a metal frame tent, we had to be very careful with in wind, setting it up to make sure that it's all guy roped out, because if that frame started to go in the wind, it would bend and twist and it's really hard to repair. Air poles, look, anything that's inflatable is prone to punctures, but these are protected by multiple layers inside, and we'll show you when we go inside how many layers it's protected by. They're tested to well within excess of what these are actually inflated to here at the moment, and they've considered the fact that that pressure increases in hot weather. And the beauty of these is, I mean, I was going to push this to try and get it to flex down for you to show you what would happen in strong wind, but I actually can't. Well, there we go. So even if the wind is strong enough to do that, and I'm pushing considerably hard on that, it just pops back into place. Whereas if I did that to a metal frame tent, the poles would have stayed bent in. So air pole tents are a really great option for coastal camping where you're subject to a lot of winds, or if you're in an area where there is just, you're just constantly getting battered by wind. These are going to be far more forgiving than a metal frame tent, because if the wind does pick up and it bends, the frame just pops back into place. Now the space under the awning at the front here, this comes about 1.9 meters out from the front of the tent here, runs the full width of the tent as well, so about 2.9 meters, so heaps of room under here. And in terms of height, it's about 2 meters to where this frame sits here. That's a little bit dependent on how much you tighten this. So, and these frames are about 10 centimeters in width, so it goes up to about 2.1 meters of height here. So I'm 185 centimeters and I can stand upright pretty much right over to the side of the awning here, so there's tons of space. This comes down to probably about 1.6, 1.7 meters, so quite a good amount of protection in this awning space here. Now there is a little lantern hook at the front here, so if you want to hang a lantern on that, that's going to support a reasonable sized lantern. These poles, even though you think they're air-filled, are actually quite durable, and you'll hang a reasonable lantern on that. And running each way from here are these Velcro tabs. You could use these for LED lighting as well if you like. That's just to secure a cord or an LED light. And this is probably a good place to show you the air frames here and how well they're protected. So you can see that underneath, or on the bottom of the airframe here, you've got a layer of polyethylene fabric here, the tarp material protecting it from the bottom. So that's the only thing that's actually touching the ground, which is the only real spot where you potentially might get a puncture, but that's protected by that and another layer. And then inside this is a TPU bladder that's secured inside by this zip. Now these zips are all Velcro closed, so if anything does happen, if you do happen to get a puncture, you can replace them by just unzipping this, putting a new bladder inside and zipping it back up again, and you're good to go. And then over the top of that, around the tent here, is another layer which is zipped as well. So all of these spots here, there's a double layer before you get to the bladder inside. So they're well protected poles, so you don't need to be concerned about punctures, but they can happen, so just be prepared on the off chance that it could happen, but there's as much chance of these getting a hole in them as there are your metal frame getting a bend in it, so don't be concerned about air poles. Now I'll step into the tent shortly, but this is a really good spot to show you a really important and well thought out feature of this tent, and that's this skirt here that runs all the way around the tent. And this protects the seam that attaches the floor to the upper tent, where you get this sort of little bit that sticks out, and that's a point where water can collect if it wasn't protected, and a spot where leaks could happen. So Dometic have attached this skirt that runs all the way around the tent to protect that point there, so when it rains, the water runs down away from that point there and away from the tent, so you're not getting low level leakage in the tent. Now looking at the front wall of the tent here, there's a window on each side here, so we've got this one unzipped and this one zipped closed. At the very top here, there is a high level vent that always stays open. You can't close that, so you always get ventilation through that. And then a double door here. So this door has got both mesh and solid panel here. So you can either zip it closed and leave it right open. So you've got, just zip the mesh closed and have all the windows open for ventilation right through the tent, or zip it all the way closed with all the windows closed, and you've still got that vent at the top there, plus the low level vents around the side. Now, this doorway is about 170 centimeters to step through. So it's a good height. I've got to duck a little bit at 185 centimeters to get through, but by the time I get inside, once again, heaps of headspace. It's the same height throughout the tent. So it's about 200 centimeters to the bottom of the pole here, about 210 centimeters to the actual fabric here. And then if I step to the side of the tent here, once again, I'm 185 centimeters. I can stand upright almost right over to the edge of the tent. These walls are upright. These walls are almost upright. So I've got heaps of living space, heaps of standing space inside the tent here. Now, while I'm in this corner, we've got two windows here that are internally adjustable. I've got these ones zipped open. If we have a look over the other side here, we can see these ones are zipped closed, and this is the internally adjustable screen that we can adjust from the inside here. These are all still weatherproof, so they're stitched such that it'll keep it dry inside still. This one here as well, internally adjustable, goes down, and it's all weatherproof. So this is designed such the water will shed away on the outside. Moving further around to this center pole here, there's a lantern clip here, and this also features on the pole just under the door where the doorway is, so the one I just stepped under. So there's two lantern hooks in here, and they both feature these tabs that run down each side of the poles here, all the way down, and there's two electrical access points. So there's one down here, there's one on the opposite side of the tent as well, so you can get an electrical cord in here if you like to run lights or fan or whatever it is you like inside the tent. So there's two of those in, and they are protected by that storm flap or that skirt that runs right around the outside of the tent as well. So that's a weather protected space. Now moving into the back room of the tent here. Now this, you can put a room, there's an accessory, you can put a room inside the tent here. So you'll notice, a bit hard to see because it's dark in here at the moment, but there are clips that run right around the back of this pole here and around the back of this pole here, so you can suspend a sleeping space in here to create a separate area to sleep in, which means this back section of the room and the front section of the room are separate. So that's what those clips are for, an accessory that you can add on down the track or when you buy the tent. Now the back wall of the tent is the slopiest of all of the walls in the tent. So I can stand under this pole here and my shoulder just rubs against this wall. So that's a good place for sleeping or storage. You got this full length window that I showed you from the outside there. We've rolled that up now so that we're letting some light inside, so it's not so dark inside the tent here, but that allows good ventilation. When combined with the vents that we saw around the base of the tent, so this panel here is a mesh panel that goes through to that little low level vent that we saw on the outside. If we have a look on the other side here, we can see we've got this one, or one of the kickstands out on this to allow that ventilation through the tent. Talk about floor space, but before we go into detail, you might wonder what this is here. That's a Velcro patch, which works with the room accessories that you put inside the tent. So unless you buy the optional accessories, that's something that just sits there and doesn't get used. The space inside the tent, or floor space, is 4.1 meters, around about 4.1 meters and about 2.9 meters in width. Hard to get an exact measurement because the sides sort of slope a little bit, but tons of space inside here. I reckon it's ideal for a family of four because you could sleep 4 people across the back here, and you've got space at the front for a table or just room for games and that sort of thing at the front of the tent there. You could even put a table and chairs inside if it's really bad weather. Now I've got a few mats, double high king single queen airbed, sorry, and a couple of king single mats that I'm going to chuck in here to show you how you might use the space. So these mats are pretty big really. A family of 4 is probably not going to use mats of this size. You can go use space much more efficiently, but we've got mats for a family of 4, really roomy mats for a family of 4 in here at the moment. This is a double high queen, so about 55 centimeters in height, 2 meters in length and about 1.5 meters in height, 1.5 meters in width, sorry. It doesn't go all the way to the back because of the height, so I could squeeze up this way a little bit more. But if I push that over just firmly, it sits roughly in the middle of the tent, so I could actually fit a second double high queen mat here if I like. Not quite enough space to fit 2 single mats. These are king singles, so they're a meter in width and about 1.9 meters in length. But I've got a double high mat, 2 big king single mats here, and I've got space to walk in between, and we've still got living space at the front of the tent there. So it's a really it's a heaps of space inside the tent. And if you wanted to fit 4 across the back here, you could get probably 4 self-inflating mats that would fit across here pretty comfortably. That is all the features of the Dometic Santorini FTK 4x8 TC inflatable tent. I reckon this is an awesome option, not only for family camping, but also an alternative to a lot of heavy duty touring tents because it's got the durability of canvas. It's got that inflatable frame, which is really forgiving, super easy to pack up and really easy to pack down. You can check these out online at snowies.com.au where you find them at our lowest prices every day.